Hey, gals, guys, and otherwise, this is Jonathan O. Rose-Lyon.
And I'm Noah, also known as Polyphonic, and you're listening to Horns and Wings, the podcast where we talk about Saga one issue at a time. And I forget how to do this because it's been so long since we recorded.
Well, here's a hint. We're talking about issue 23, and I have a very, very sad announcement to make here. I'm sincerely sorry to the listeners, but we are back from hiatus. Let's dive in.
Theme music!
We paused for theme music. So, it's just the two of us.
Is it?
On this episode?
It's just me and someone whose last name is Rose-Lyon. That is correct.
Yep. And no one else. And no one else can talk because we specifically said that they can't talk until we introduce them. So it's just the two of us.
We've got a guest this week. You know that already if you've seen the title.
That's true.
You'll have it on the title. They'll know that this isn't a big surprise. Hi, Haley.
Ooh. It's a ghost guest.
Whoa, there was a big surprise. Oh, shit.
Okay, no, I'm a human. Well, I guess ghosts are human.
Hold on, yeah.
Okay, well, I'm an alive
Yeah, Isabel
human.
would take big issue to that.
Oh, wow, yeah.
Hey, what's Isabel's race? Hey, actually, what's anyone's race? There's just, no names for races in this comic.
Except for Landfallian and Mooney and robots.
No, but that's we have Wookiees and stuff. Wookiees are from Kashyyyk. There's species in Star Wars and stuff, but there's you name the place they're from. Can you be what if you're a horned person who's born not on landfall? What are you then, Noah?
This is why we went on hiatus.
Hey, Haley, you're here.
Hi, I'm here.
What's up?
So, who are you? What do you do?
Who am I? Wow, that's a big question. My name is Haley Rose-Lyon.
Mm-hmm.
Some of you may be wondering why I have the same last name as John.
Mm-hmm.
It's a total coincidence. It's a total coincidence.
She snoked me.
But this episode, we do get to discover who is the superior Rose-Lyon.
That's true.
We already know. I'm pretty sure it's unanimously known that it's Haley.
Oh, stop it.
So, Haley, you've helped out with this podcast behind the scenes a lot, especially when we were doing the animated stuff for the YouTube.
Yes.
Did you edited some, right?
Yes, I think 2 or 3.
Poor you.
This is really fun because neither one of us, we're sitting 2 feet away from each other, but we can't look at each other because we're talking into mics. So it is just the oddest thing. And it's really helping our relationship. Hey, we're married, by the way. I guess we should stop bullshitting about all the other stuff and admit that. But yeah, we're a married couple, and she's rad. And she's a Saga fan. How long have you been a Saga fan for?
Oh, I think I started reading in my first year of university.
Okay.
So probably about 6 or 7 years ago.
Brag.
I think. Maybe a little later than that.
I don't even know what the when that would have been in the series at this point. Third, fourth.
I have no conception of what time is in Saga.
I think that's 4th or 5th arc at that point. It started in 2012.
Do you remember what was out when you started reading?
Nope. Yeah, no. But I do remember it was one of the first comic series that I started actually following, in real time. I started reading comics pretty early on in my life, but I wouldn't classify myself as a comics fan until about university.
What were you? Oh, well, I was going to say, what were your favorite comics before then? But there's a relevant one of a comic you read before that from a certain author. I'm talking about Runaways. She's looking at me so confused.
Oh, yeah. Of course. Yeah, Runaways
That was a real smooth segue, John.
I tried to... I tossed the ball underarm on that one, and it just smacked the dirt.
Runaways by a certain author named Brian K. Vaughan was one of my one of my first comic series that I absolutely loved. I found the what do you call them when it's like
they're like
the manga
like
size
the Reader's
books.
Digest size.
Yeah.
Of
Yeah.
those.
Kind of.
Yeah.
And those were in my middle school library, so I discovered
Nice.
those. I would sit there for hours just consuming it all, and it was
She's
really
who
great.
got me into Runaways.
Runaways is actually one of the first comics that I started reading too. Around when I was in middle school, my sister, who worked at Adobe Comic Shop, gave it to me.
Nice.
Yeah, and you also do comic lettering, right?
Oh yeah.
I do. I do comic lettering, and I also do a little bit of comic editing too, because my background is in editing, like kind of journalistically. I went to school for journalism. Editing was
Me
my
too.
stream. Yeah, I know.
Oh yeah, because you started out with music. You wanted to, your aim was music journalism, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I interned at a radio station for a
Besties.
while.
Oh, which radio station?
Indie 88 in Toronto.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it was great. I love that station so much.
They have the IAS playing on there.
They actually do.
Yeah, lots.
The actually Middle 8 used to work for Indie 88.
Sorry, say again?
Oh yeah.
Middle 8, another YouTube music video essayist.
Oh, very cool.
I know. They're
Yeah.
Toronto based.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Connections.
All right. Well, we're friends now, so we can do a podcast. But yeah, Haley, if you spot any lettering insights, because I'd say lettering is the thing we've talked about the least in the different aspects of this comic. It is fairly straightforward.
Before we go in, I'd love to hear a little bit about lettering and like how you kind of got into lettering and what you enjoy about it.
Oh, I thought this was a Saga podcast, but all right, let's do that.
Okay, fuck you, John.
Go for it.
Yeah, let me talk about myself a little bit. I would not have gotten into comic lettering if it weren't for John over here. So, I have him to thank, because when we were putting together Suffragettes, the one-shot comic that was released via Patreon last year.
Art by the fantastic Kelly Purdue.
An aesthetic ripped off by me for my latest video.
Nice.
Yeah.
We invented 1920s. Turns out.
When we were getting that together, John was like, yeah, well, so we need to like hire an artist, and some of them do coloring and lettering also, but might need to get a letterer on on the side as well as the artist. And I was like, hey, why don't I just give it a shot? And I did, and I absolutely loved it.
She ended up being the most talented letterer that I've worked with in her first shot. Apologies to anyone else who's lettered anything I've done, but she nailed it.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, I'm a little bit of a perfectionist, so spacing and things like that. I just pay a lot of attention to the very meticulous aspects of it.
We can't relate to that, Noah and I. And then, yeah, what are some other books you've done? Because you are more published than I am.
Well,
You say that like it's some great feat.
Well, yeah, fuck you, Haley.
Wow.
No, that was a fuck you, John.
Oh, okay, all right.
I'm saying
Nope.
it's not like
No,
it's
I'm
not
with
like
you on this
John-
one, Noah. Noah, we're
It's not like John is
simpatico on this one,
famously-
Noah.
It's not like John is famously prolific or
Hey.
anything.
Okay, yes.
I've published so many of my own things.
But yeah, I know I lettered a webcomic that you also happened to write, called Specs. As one of my favorite ones too, because
It's a good one.
we kind of experimented with different colored word balloons, and it was really fun. And then I kind of put myself out there online, and got kind of asked by a couple of publishers to do a couple projects here and there. And now I'm just kind of doing my own thing, freelancing. I'm working on a couple of things, upcoming things that I'm really excited about, just with the indie creators.
Once Upon a Time in France. And what was the other one that you lettered for?
It was just a little kind of excerpt from a story.
Just looking for that title, baby.
Rolled and Told.
Rolled and Told. There it is. Yeah, go check those out. You nailed those.
Isn't Once Upon a Time in France the name of the opening scene of Inglourious Bastards?
I think it. I think it's Once Upon a Time in Nazi-occupied France, which was the original name of the film. Yeah, so nice try, Noah, but I'm the smart one.
All right, well, now that we've gotten to know our guest a little bit, should we get into this comic thing?
Yeah, Haley, where were you born? No, let's talk about this cover, because this cover is fantastic.
Yeah. Here, Haley, do you want to try to describe what we're seeing on this cover?
Okay. All right.
Sorry for asking you to be on the podcast.
I didn't know you were going to throw me in the deep end.
Yeah, wow, talking about the comic.
Hard hitting.
It's like, I thought we were just talking about exclusively me.
I mean, that's how you described it. All right, so we're looking at a lime greenish background with some pink mountains in the background.
Mm-hmm.
In the foreground is Yuma, right? Is that her name?
Yep, 310-2.
Yuma, and she is painting on a giant canvas, and the canvas sports her face.
Mm-hmm.
Her beautiful, beautiful face.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a hand of hers that's also coming out of the canvas,
mm-hmm.
and is painting behind the Yuma that's painting on the canvas. It's like this beautiful kind of cycle of creation and self-reflection.
Who's the guy that drew that painted a bunch of
painting himself?
Yeah, Norman Rockwell was the especially famous, and then there was also the one where Mickey Mouse was painting in the same way, but it was a picture of Walt Disney that he was painting.
I think this is like one of the most straight up out there covers we've seen yet.
For sure.
This is like a
color
nauseatingly
palette.
Yeah, this is the most neon like radiated lime yellow
It
green.
looks like a 90s kids show color palette.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like it feels like there should be goo being dropped on someone.
Yeah, no, it's honestly like it's one like I don't like the color. Like, and it works perfectly. But like I think that's even more impressive that I love this cover and I don't like that color at all. It's offensive to my eyes.
You know, something I just noticed also is that Fiona Staples signed on the canvas.
Oh, yeah.
Not
You're right.
the edge of the page.
That's really fun.
That's fun.
Yeah, it's a really neat cover. Also, like at the bottom, all of the paints are kind of like running together and melting into these psychedelic swirls.
Yeah, I love it.
That's one of those things, especially like when we see a character that's like half submerged underwater and stuff, where you take it for granted as the viewer or the reader, but it is so incredibly hard to do as the artist to make that look correct.
Yeah.
To blur things in such a way that makes sense and looks accurate, but you're just doing it by hand. So good on her. She's good at that.
All right, so who's gonna take on this first scene?
I don't know how to count with 3 people. I'll do it.
All right.
Because it's 2 pages. So we get our opening splash, and it is Ginny standing, and for those, boy, it's been a while. I guess we have to like recap a bit. Ginny is the bat lady who's been sort of hitting on Marco. And it's Ginny sort of seductively standing in a doorway, looking at us saying, "Why am I not surprised to see you?" And she's wearing just a t-shirt. And it is for the band The Mistook, which is, I'm guessing, like a sort of Misfits.
Which is a sick band name.
And I want this shirt. So we get the reverse shot, and it's Marco showing up there saying he wasn't sure where else to go, because keep in mind, we just had the argument between Alana and Marco, and he kind of scurried off into the woods. So it's nighttime. He explains that they had a fight, and he wanted to leave and respect her wishes, but didn't know where to go, but he also wants to make things right. She says, bar whatever you guys are scrapping about, it'll look much better in the morning. Let me make you a cup of tea. And sort of insists on him coming in, and we get the voiceover. A lot of people who came into my family's life looking like heroes ended up acting more like villains. Which I do think that's the end of this little 2-page scene. I think that kind of pushes into that boundary we were talking about before, the sort of iffy, problematic interpretation of her as like a homewrecker.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if she's established herself as like being in a fairly open relationship, and Marco has not done otherwise.
Yeah.
And has sort of is clearly like the fact that this is where he came to. Like,
yeah,
she is so justified in this understanding of the situation.
Yeah, I agree. I love the opening panel. There's so many just like really fun fourth wall breaks with the opening splashes, and you'd think that they'd run out of ideas, but they're all just so fucking fun.
Which also I'm realizing now, because I keep forgetting we're on Gardania is the planet, and how they sort of just subtly insert plants into the architecture here, and sort of the columns holding up the porch, the roof above the porch are just tree trunks, and the door handle on that opening splash is a little organic piece of wood.
I also just love, it's easy to forget how much of a kind of intense cliffhanger we ended on last issue, because Christmas fell in between, but we end on Dango pointing a gun at Yuma and her basically implied that she's going to tell them where Hazel is. So that's like such a page turner, and it feels like a super kind of meta statement, especially when you're reading them in the trades, to like end on that and then turn the page and have a character be like, why am I not surprised to see you here starting this next issue?
Right. I feel like this is more scary. This is scarier to me, seeing her like this, and like after a couple seconds realizing what's happening here in this opening splash. Like, that's scarier to me if Dango was pointing a gun at us. Because like I see where this is going, and I'm terrified for it. Haley.
Yeah, it's definitely setting a scene. Yeah, what do you think, Haley?
Haley, what are your thoughts on this scene?
I mean, this splash is something else. I really like it. I keep going back to it, and it is there is that kind of like, oh no, quality about it. But there's also, I mean, I like her. I think she's really cool. I relate with her. And that, I mean, that like tattered t-shirt dress that just goes like pretty much just covers
the naughty bits.
The naughty bits is very sexy. And that's all I gotta say about that.
Yeah, it's definitely like a like rom-com girlfriend kind of look.
Oh yes.
Yeah. And I'd say another good example of this book sexualizing people, but in non-traditional ways, which is cool.
All right, should I take the next one, or does Haley want to do a
last thought really quick? I will say the strongest emotional reaction, despite that opening splash that I had to this scene, was her just nonchalantly calling him Bar, and us going on hiatus and me forgetting that was what he was being referred to, and just I'm at the point where reading that name just gives me just like this just strike of sadness through my heart.
I felt the exact same.
All right, that's all I wanted.
Should I take on this next one, or do you want to, Haley?
Go ahead, Noah. Go ahead.
Okay, so we've got some signature THN here. We get a lot of people who came into my family's life looking like heroes ended up acting more like villains. I wish I could say the opposite was also true, but that was pretty fucking rare. And we open on kind of the wreckage of a ship. It's the ship that Dango has been through, if you recall. It is just like crashed and burning. And then we see Prince Robot walking away from the Dragon Skull ship, walking towards the burning. He asks if Dango's in there. He says he just wants to talk, but he's loading up his arm cannon. And then he steps inside and sees just pure fucking carnage, beheaded winged people. But in this carnage, he sees a diaper and unravels the diaper and sees that it's full of poop. And his face becomes a setting sun, and he says he's alive. And that's our little scene here.
A strong contender for new favorite robot screen. I like it.
I think what's really cool about this scene, looking at it in the book, is how it kind of functions to transition between two different color palettes, where if you look at the scene before, like this kind of spread, there's the blues and oranges pulling, and then you turn the page and the inside of the ship has some greens that are similar to Yuma on the next page. That's the kind of just like cohesiveness, aesthetic cohesiveness that makes it so easy to read. And then you even see like the pinks and oranges getting pulled from the paint on the next page.
Oh yeah, with the sunset. Yeah. And yeah, that's really smart. But yeah, I feel like if you just laid out just like blocks of the colors used throughout this, it would be more of like a spectrum instead of like a gradient instead of just harsh differences. Haley, you look like you wanted to say something.
Oh no, I was just the sunset or sunrise as I interpreted it, because
that probably makes a lot more sense.
Yeah. Although I just thinking about it now, I don't know if this is intentional or not, but they say red sky morning, sailor's warning. So if it is a sunrise, there could be some kind of ominousness happening there. You never know.
Also, he realizes that his son's still alive, and it's a sun on his screen.
Oh my god, I didn't get that pun.
Look at that.
So many layers. Yeah, and then we also see what I'm assuming is the body where that head and spine came from.
Yeah, that was my assumption.
Internal consistency.
It's just a quick little scene where it's interesting as things are kind of progressing towards the end of this arc. We're getting some kind of quicker scenes. The pace is picking up a little bit.
Oh, and then I just realized there's that very similar parallel to last volume where we have Prince Robot showing up on the same planet as Alana and Marco. And we get that very similar color palette.
Is he on the same planet?
Yeah. Yep. That's why
is that where
the sky's the same color and everything.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Which was very similar to the scene where he's showing up to the lighthouse in last volume. So we're it's like poetry. It rhymes. George Lucas.
Okay, George Lucas. Yeah.
Oh dear.
All right, I'm satisfied.
All right, yeah, let's just chug along.
Let's chug along, please. Haley, give us the old chug along.
So we do 2 at a time then, 2 pages?
Well, a scene at a time. They just happen to be 2. So
okay.
I'm gonna say the next 3 pages.
The next ends, yeah.
Okay, sounds good. Cut to Dango.
Mm-hmm. Chained.
Close up, his face, his TV face, has a giant question mark on it, and he's saying, "They had a baby? You're lying." And at this point, his face has a fancy-looking lion cat displayed on it. Has like these little like horns coming out with earrings on them.
Ornamental.
Yeah, I'm about this fancy lion cat.
I'm very about it. He's incredulous about what Yuma has obviously just told him.
Mm-hmm.
But she's convincing him that what she's saying is the truth. But why is she even telling him this? Because she's trying to save her own life. Mm-hmm. She tells him. And she's not ready to die. Flip to... All right, well, he believes that.
I love your summary style. It's so calm.
So slow.
Hey, I'm just trying my best here, okay? And he he's like, how is this gonna help me? And so she says, I'm just gonna do the dialogue here because you're angry at your kingdom, right? That's why you grabbed the kid. That's why you want to send his family some kind of message. He says the universe has no idea how many ordinary robots are suffering so that royals like this princeling can prosper. We see a little baby. And now Yuma says the universe doesn't know because it doesn't care. And she believes that even if he got on the air, that nobody would even listen or care. And he says, you're wrong. As soon as they hear about what happened to my own boy. And Yuma says, no, there's no way. If you want people to pay attention to what you're saying, you have to talk about sex. Which is why she told him about
sex, baby.
The Hazel. Mm-hmm.
The Hazel. Is that her freelancer
Coming
name?
to Fox this fall. The Hazel.
Sex?
Hold on, was that your tango?
Yeah.
You went higher on that. All right, that's canon.
Sex?
Nope, that's
I don't
canon.
know.
Nope,
I don't know
we
how
already
to do
established. Tango.
Sex?
There it is.
As high as you can go.
No, don't. Executive decision on that one. Do not.
All right. At this point, Dango has lowered the gun raised at her a little bit. Your planet has sacrificed everything for the wings because they promised to keep you safe from the horns, right? Yuma says. But what if Wreath and Landfall weren't really enemies? What if behind the scenes they were actually fucking this whole time? What if your readers knew the war was a sham? Or your leaders, not readers. What if your leaders knew the war was a sham, but kept it a secret just so that they could keep fucking you? Dango has raised the gun again, and he says, now you're just spinning your wheels. Even if this Hazel child actually exists, she wouldn't prove any of that lunacy. Besides, I don't need elaborate conspiracy theories when I have the truth on my side. Yuma says the truth is boring, but if you let me live, I swear I could help you craft a more compelling end. Then Yuma is shot.
Owie.
Dango shoots her right in the stomach, and she goes down. She's lying on the ground. The baby is crying a little bit. And then he's talking to the child. I suppose you're right. No harm in having a look.
I just realized we have that dark green pooling blood around her.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That's cool. Yeah, I like how he shoots her, and then he's like, yeah, I guess you're right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Yuma is possibly the latest in Dango's murder spree.
Mm-hmm. Chain of murders. Yeah. Okay. So
okay. Enough of that.
Yeah, I would hate to run a Dango on Jade joke into the ground on this podcast. So I one of my favorite things about this scene is how we're getting such a glimpse into Dango's bubble, like idealistic bubble of like, first of all, him saying there's no way a man from Wreath would willingly procreate with one of his oppressors. So we know that he he sides with the horns in this scenario. I guess because the wings are working with the robots, so that adds up. But he's also like, he's so ideological that like he's like, there's no way anyone would do this, and the second anyone hears about like my son, then they're all gonna like be on my side with this. And like he is so adamant about how he is so black and white about how the universe works, and thinks he has it so thoroughly figured out, which I guess you have to be to do the things that he's doing.
Yep. If you're gonna be that kind of black and white and radical, you need to really believe that saying, "Hey, children die," will be enough to spur the entire galaxy into action.
Just the black and white morality here is so thoroughly Twitter. And so just like this, I cannot fathom any other scenario except for my perspective on this. And also he like through that willingly procreate with one of his oppressors, I think it also shows that he doesn't see peace as an option here, or ceasefire or anything. It's just murder all the oppressors. It's the scenario.
And murder anyone that gets in the way of him murdering all of the oppressors.
Or just murder people who just gave you valuable information, but you felt like killing them.
There's some great acting by Yuma here.
Yeah. Which it reflects a lot of the things we said at the end of the last issue about she's just a normal person trying not to die.
Yeah.
And she's very sincere in her trying not to die.
I love the panel where she says if you want to get people's attention, you have to talk about sex, because it almost feels like she is spinning her wheels, but has realized like a good argument that might save her life.
Yeah. Also, there is something that I noticed Haley does quite a bit in her lettering that I don't know if I've seen it very much here in this book, and that's the what do you call that? That's connecting the two balloons here on the third page.
Oh yeah.
I mean, it would just be a connecting tail, pretty much.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's exactly what I was going to talk about, before.
Goes
and then
behind his arm.
Yeah, it goes behind his arm. So that indicates that they really want us to pay attention to this arm, which is currently raised again, and like from the last panel to this one, he has raised the gun again toward Yuma.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a very smart and subtle way to draw attention to that, is having it sort of break our idea of what the depth of these balloons in the scene is, by him overlapping with the balloon. Which, I'm struggling to think of other, or maybe I just noticed, especially because we have a letterer on the podcast. But I'm struggling to think of another time where that's happened.
It's definitely really interesting, because I feel like in my mind, always kind of pictures the bubbles like stacked in front of the image, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I really like that technique. I think it's really unique, and it's a great way to use lettering as a storytelling technique as well.
I think that's something to keep an eye out throughout this issue, as we have a letterer here, because like John said, we haven't talked that much about lettering, but I think it's a subtle thing that it's easy to overlook how big of an impact it can have on the way that you experience a story.
Yeah, or even plot out. There's something that I just realized I had never pointed out, even though I have first-hand experience with it, which I will get into after this next scene, but having to do with the voiceover. I have some insight based on past failures from comics. Do we want to jump into the next scene? Also, sorry, Yuma. R.I.P. You did what you had to.
I will say that just seeing this panel right here is shooting her in the stomach is a lot less decisive than some of the other kills he's had.
Mm-hmm.
This is true. It's not as blatantly gory.
Yeah, and maybe it's like, well, I was gonna say, I mean, they gave Barr a less graphic death and stuff. Like, maybe that's just as much of a sign of respect. But also, then I remember back to Heist's death, and they don't care about that at all, actually. They like scarring you.
I think it's a really good point, because I think when you compare to what the gun did in the last issue, where it fucking nuked Slipjack's face and blew chunks out of the gargoyle.
Yeah. Hey, we got a new scene here.
We got a great scene here.
We got some full on Hazel Isabel. Why do we keep doing that? It's the damn Z.
Hazabel.
Yeah, it's pronounced Zed. You said Zed wrong.
I'm sorry, Noah. It's Z. Come on.
Haley,
on.
She's been indoctrinated. She's assimilated. No. I love it.
No.
All right. We cut to another part of the planet. We are at the outside of the rocket ship tree, and we see Alana still shaken up about the argument that they just had, and Isabel comes out and says that she saw everything, and Alana says, then you know why I kicked Marco out? He fucking assaulted me. And Isabel says, come on, he threw some vegetables. Isn't that a pretty standard review for you these days? Which is such a good fucking burn. And so this is a lot of back and forth between Alana, where Alana says, like, my life fucking sucks and it's hard specifically for me. So Alana says that her dad used to beat up her mom, so he has a zero tolerance policy for that shit. And or she has a zero tolerance policy. And Isabel says, yeah, my parents had one of those policies when it came to drugs, in reference to Alana. Woof. And
I came out here to have a good time, and honestly, I'm feeling really attacked right now.
That is this whole scene. And then Alana says, you people have no idea what I've been going through. And Isabel says, letting us take care of your kid while you eat craft services. And I like how Isabel is just having the fight that Marco would have had if he wasn't so nice.
Yeah. But she's doing it in the most Isabel way possible. Like, this is just like pure homegrown sass.
She is so fucking cheeky here. And so Alana says something that I definitely want to come back to, and she's pointing out that it's not just about the circuit. She used to be a soldier, and do you know what kind of nightmares I still have every single night? Then we have an amazing...
Best fucking line.
So good.
Perfect expression in body acting to accompany this, but Isabel, with just all the sass in the world, says, are you seriously trying to educate me about the costs of war? You realize I'm fucking dead, correct? And Alana just realizes how sort of bullshit her superiority complex here is. And Isabel says, you know what I dream about every night? My ex-girlfriend. She talks about how...
queer representation.
Hell yeah. And she talks about how they broke up because her ex was into the planet's most judgy religion. But then 2 days later, she stepped on a mine and died. And the last thing she was thinking about was that she'll never feel her ex-girlfriend's breath on her neck again. And this is all to say that life is complicated, but it's also very fucking short. If you find someone who can forgive all your bullshit, the least you can do is try to forgive them. Which is fantastic. Why is she so goddamn wise? It's absurd.
Because she's like hundreds of years old.
Or 10. Okay, maybe not 10.
10. Did you have a girlfriend at 10?
She might be a reverse Baby Yoda. We don't know. But this is a moment where I love Saga so begrudgingly, because we end on Alana holding those drugs in her hand. And the voiceover says, in the open circuit, characters are supposed to have arcs where they grow and evolve over the course of the story. So we think she's about to, she's about to stomp on these drugs and give it up forever. But instead, she takes all of them at once. And the voiceover says, but Mom always thought that was nonsense. And so this is so fucking true to life, where it's like you get scolded for doing an unhealthy thing, so your response is, I'm going to do so much more of that unhealthy thing now. Yeah. I will increase the thing. But yeah, that is the end of our scene. And yeah, I'm here. I'm a little torn on this one. I want to hear how you two think about it, because Hazel brings up so many valid responses.
Isabel?
Shh. That's just gonna happen. Pinky brings up so many 10-year-old Pinky brings up so many valid responses.
But the brain says
the brand. No, please. But also I think she's very dismissive of what Alana's going through, because I do think it is something that I'm annoyed I didn't consider, but makes perfect sense, and I love it for this character, is that Alana brings up the fact that she went through a war, and she absolutely is suffering PTSD, and like, of course this is self-medicating. Like, it was never explicitly stated before here, and she wasn't having like, you know, flashbacks where the ceiling fan was a helicopter, but like she of course she's dealing with that stuff, and of course she would be drawn to taking drugs and not like dwelling on any of that. And so it does bum me out that like this is very tough love. Like this is, but it also seems pretty dismissive of what Alana's actually going through. Thoughts?
I don't think it's dismissive of what she's going through. I think it's just kind of saying that I think what Alana's doing, and Isabel recognizes this, is that she's kind of like looking for a reason to fight. Yeah. And she's looking for a reason to be angry. Yeah. And I think Isabel's kind of trying to talk her down from that. And also the you realize I'm fucking dead is amazing, but it also reminds you that basically everyone in this universe has gone through war, and that doesn't mean that Alana isn't allowed to like struggle with what she's gone through. But every one of the, especially in this household, save for Hazel, every one of these characters has been through some real shit, right?
But I think oh, Haley.
I think.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah.
Oh, no. Finish your thought, Noah.
I just think that I think what's happening is that I'm very much Team Isabel here, because A, Isabel is probably my favorite character. B, this is probably my favorite Isabel scene. But I think the point that she's making, where I think Alana is intentionally trying to do some of this kind of false equivalency stuff. Like Marco throwing the bag of groceries is not the same as her father beating her mother.
Yeah.
And I think Alana knows that, and Isabel knows that, but she's just kind of trying to be angry, which I feel like we've all been in fights before where you just try to be angry, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think Alana is at her most annoying here. Her most insufferable that we've seen, pretty much. But I do like that when Isabel kind of calls her out and is like, you know, you realize I'm dead, right? That Alana immediately says sorry, you know, or sorry.
Yeah.
Nope.
Either one.
Sorry. Sorry.
And, you know, so she's still Alana. She's still, you know, a reasonable, good person. And just that kind of little glimmer kind of gives you some hope.
Yeah. I think where I come down on this is that Isabel is absolutely right about everything she says, but also I think it was the wrong approach. I mean, obviously, because she just takes a bunch of drugs. I think that, like, you can...
But is there an approach where she's not going to take a bunch of drugs?
Yeah, exactly.
I think she needs to call her out on her bullshit and then not necessarily be a scolding about it. Like, I think that, because it's just a matter of... I don't think
she's scolding. She just says, if you find someone who can forgive your bullshit, the least you can do is try to forgive them. She's trying to, like, I don't think she's trying to, like, scold or punish.
I think there's no attempt to empathize with where, because there's that whole, my least favorite argument in the world is there's starving kids in Africa, so don't whine about anything. Like what Alana's going through is still valid and still fucked up and still hard, and Isabel has presented her with no coping solutions beyond go get over it because life is short. And I think that I think it is all about, I think it's all about the approach and the assertiveness, and it's a person to person thing where it's like some people just need that straight up tough love, like, here's the situation, stop being such a dick. And then some people are, you know, just aren't in the mood to listen to reason at that point, and need some convincing or some persuasion.
Actually,
beyond that.
yeah, going back and reading Isabel's lines here, I think I do, like, if it were me, I'd be like, yeah, that was shitty of Marco to throw things at you, but Isabel kind of doesn't give that, like, oh, I see where you're coming from, but this is where I'm coming from.
I think that's what happens when you're a 200-year-old teenager.
Yeah, that checks out.
Yeah, but yeah, the whole thing is just there are those people that, like, there are people when you argue with them, they just focus on getting defensive and not about whether or not they're right or wrong. And if anyone is going to be immediately defensive, it's Alana, if we know anything about her. But yeah, I think that's an interesting conversation, and I think that we were smart and insightful.
I also think I really want to also just mention, I think this is an incredible display of how well Fiona Staples uses her character models, because you can look at like Isabel's floating torso is used to kind of convey so much body language. Like when she comes out, the torso's kind of behind and she's kind of hesitant, and then she's kind of like jesting, and then she's making a point and she leans in, and when she has her like, I'm dead, her body language is like pure sass. And it's really cool to see how Fiona Staples is able to kind of lean into this kind of like this floating torso and give it the kind of body language that really drives the story and drives the character.
Yeah, I've never noticed that. It's not like she's just erasing the legs off of someone. Like it's almost Genie from Aladdin-esque where
very much so.
Yeah.
Very much so. And you can even see when she's walking inside, she kind of leads with her chest, and the rest of the torso kind of floats behind her, right?
Yeah. And it also, like, I like how her going back inside gives it sort of a stomping off.
Yeah,
feeling,
exactly.
Except she has no legs.
Yeah.
I think, I will always be so impressed by sort of the illusion of emotion or expression where there is none with Prince Robot, with Isabel, and so many characters in this. Fiona Staples pretty good.
I also just love that Alana thinks character arcs are nonsense as she's in the middle of a very dramatic character arc.
That's wonderful.
It's great. So this is what I was talking about earlier when I said that this is where I fucked up with a comic, and it's something that this comic is always conscious of, which it helps that Fiona Staples is the one who handwrites the voiceover with this, so she can plot it out a bit more. But for the second comic I ever did, I pretty much just was like, hey, I wanna rip off this thing that Saga does, where we have handwritten, balloonless or caption boxless voiceover, and so pretty much my instruction to the writer who wasn't going to letter it was, hey, leave some space for the voiceover here. And then I realized that if you have, it has to be, for it to work, for you to be able to do that, there has to be a consistent color tone in where that is. When it came time to letter the comic, it was all like there were black outlines of like different things in the background, and it was like white wall and then dark posters on top of it, and it's like you cannot use just a white font or a black font or anything to just write over that. Your brain does not want to read it, and so it's actually an incredibly hard thing to do, and you have to be very conscious of, because you need just like near solid colors. If you look at where the voiceover goes, it is all either a very dark tone or a very light tone, and yeah, it's hard to think ahead on that, and I didn't. And so we ended up having to do sort of like a sort of hazy, smoky background to the handwritten voiceover. Because
I think it works, but yeah.
With Superhuman?
Yeah.
We made it work.
We made it work, yeah.
But it was not, I just wanted to write it on the thing, and then
You just wanted to do Saga.
I just wanted to do Saga, and that was the singular source. I sent the letterer and the artist. I was like, let's do the Saga thing. And it's the most blatantly I've ripped off anything in my life, but it's just so good. It's one of those things that, like, feels so obvious that, like, it feels less like a ripoff, but just like, oh, we've made this new standard thing that everyone should be doing. It's like you know, someone wanting to make a platformer after Mario comes out or something. Like it's just, it feels like such a no-brainer, and it adds so much personality and like a literal hand-drawn feeling to it, and makes things more vulnerable and more relatable, like you're reading a diary. And so yeah, I appreciate that about this. But again, shout out to Fiona for having the foresight. I'm sure she figured it out really quick.
Of anyone ever.
Yeah. But I'm sure she figured out really quick what I failed to figure out until the comic was needing to be lettered. But yeah, heads up, comic makers out there. Anything else?
I think also this setting is just fucking beautiful, but at this point that just goes without saying.
Oh yeah, I love the backlighting from the entrance of the tree. It's really cool.
And like the fairy lights in the background.
Oh, I'm such a sucker for fairy lights.
Yeah, we didn't mention that that where they've landed the ship, the sort of the yard and the surrounding woods, they've hung up a bunch of fairy lights, and it's very comfy. Cute. It's very cozy. I like it.
Yeah. All right. Should we get on to the next scene?
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
All right. Is it my turn or Haley's?
I think it's yours, yeah.
All right. We get every one of my scenes begins with THN.
I'm sorry, it's HTN, Noah.
HTN.
Don't make me have to put in another patent. I don't know why I patented.
For something you didn't invent, something a phenomenon
I
that
did it
you
for
just
Superhuman.
observed.
Yeah. All right, good.
So characters are supposed to have arcs, but Mom always thought that was nonsense. In the real world, people never change all that much.
The real worlds.
In the
catch.
real worlds, yeah. I didn't notice that.
That's great.
That's really good. That's a really fun little catch. And so we have this silent page, which is just, by the way, fucking gorgeous composition. We'll talk about that. Mm-hmm. But we've got Marco and Ginny just like sitting silently, sharing a cup of tea, making eye contact, leaning in.
Oh no!
And then you turn the page, and we get a close up on Marco's face as they're just about to start macking, and he says "ponk conk," and he realizes that he sees Hazel's doll Ponk Conk sitting there. Ginny says, "Oh yeah, I set it aside. She left it here after class yesterday." And Marco says that she can't sleep without Ponk Conk, so she has to get home. And then Ginny says, "That's probably not the best idea, Bar. Why don't you sit down?" And Marco interrupts saying, "My name isn't Bar. That was my dad's name. I have no right to sully it." Ginny is clearly taken aback and confused and says, "Don't talk like that. You're an amazing father and an even better." And Marco looks her dead in the eye and says, "Stop it. I apologize for bringing my problems into your life. You've been a very good friend to me. Thank you for teaching my girl to dance." And he walks out of the house.
I love this scene so much.
Oh, and we actually at the end of the scene we get to see the back of the t-shirt.
Yeah, I was trying to make these out.
Galactic prison tour
For the mistook.
Which is dope.
The third one down looks sort of Folson-y.
The second one's definitely Cleve, which
or
we've
Cleveland.
been to.
One of those two. Famous prison planet, Cleveland.
Hades.
I want to go to Hades.
And then Capital City.
Yeah. Okay, this is really compelling radio.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, no, I like this scene a lot. I like how we've gotten to about as bad as it can get for these two characters conceivably in terms of like betrayal to both each other and themselves. And I think this brings up a really interesting thing that the reader has to deal with. And that is this idea of, I guess, this is kind of an argument against objective morality because it's like Marco is so much more like adamantly moral of the two characters, and he doesn't actually do anything. Like, he never takes it to the unacceptable step. But the fact that he gets that close to it feels so much more immoral and so much more of a betrayal than Alana, you know, when she just straight up took drugs and stuff like.
Yeah, like, does it?
Continue to do that.
It doesn't feel that different than if they actually had kissed for a second, right?
Yeah. Like, I'm already disappointed that they got that close, and I already am hurt by that.
Yeah. I want to talk about this first page. This first page is just incredible. It kind of shows how the combinations of, like, wide shot, medium shot, close up, which is just kind of like the very basics of filmmaking, just works so well cinematically, where you open on the close shot of this cute little turtle dragon teapot, which I want, and then you have this, you pull out and there's this like beautifully
they didn't
symmetric...
get that far, Noah. They didn't get to the pull out.
Oh, come on. Boo.
Okay, go ahead.
Just this beautifully symmetric shot with them sitting on the couch, this awesome shield with a bat face and swords crossed behind it. And then it's just like, this page is almost entirely symmetrical, and it just works so well for this moment. And I think it's also kind of in our talks about lettering, it shows the power that a silent scene can have too. Because you can just feel the fucking crickets when you read this scene.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. No, I'm going to have to disagree majorly with one comment you made of it being symmetrical. Let's look at this couch really quick and look at the arms of this couch. Let's figure out what the fuck is going on with the architecture of this couch.
Oh, dear.
Because it is infuriating to me. This is, I would say, the first flaw in Saga, because one arm is about 6 inches higher than the other one and has the pillow going like sort of symmetrically with the top of it, and the other one is just really low and has a pillow sticking out, and it's just like, what if I try to put my arm on that pillow? The pillow's just gonna flip over and it's probably gonna smack my tea out of my hand. And how are you gonna? That's awful. That's ruining the mood with Ginny.
This is definitely the conversation to be having as we're approaching the hour mark of the podcast.
Yeah. John is very passionate about couches.
You can't call the shot symmetrical. What in any other shot, any other angle, the arms are symmetrical again, but it's just this one. It's just what's the fuck is going on with the Fiona, I know you're listening. I think you're great.
Please don't burn any bridges here.
I think you're great. But what the fuck is your glitch, Fiona? How did I hurt you?
This makes this issue objectively bad.
Oh, God. So stupid. I would like to own that couch, though. It seems pretty comfy. Yeah, no, that was my contribution to this scene. And also the shield and swords are really cool.
There's kind of this flash of scary Marco there, and I think that's really, really intense because we've seen scary Marco.
Oh, when he says, "My name isn't Bar"?
Yeah, and it seems like he like snaps his finger or something like that.
Well, she starts to touch him in the previous panel, so it seems like he's sort of knocking her hand off of his arm.
Yeah. And when he says, "Stop it," too, like the look in his eyes.
Yeah. It's interesting to see sort of how he mentally breaks down a bit like this, and with throwing the vegetables because he is disappointed in himself. Like, that is such a... I like that his attitude and how he treats people actively changes the more disappointed in himself that he becomes. I think that is such a true to life thing, and good writing.
I also feel like they've established that like Marco isn't actually like inherently this natural, calm, sweet pacifist. Like that there's something else within him, and even the way he says "stop it" and then kind of calms down and his body language calms and he kind of sulks out, you really get the sense that he's kind of put on this calm surface over top that is restraining all of the kind of like angst of that happens when you're raised to kill, right?
Yeah, actually, yeah, and that's something that we can really get into at some point, but it is worth keeping in mind that this is a guy who has murdered dozens, at least, and also a guy who sort of abandoned his original fiance, so he has that part of him in him, and is just like, he is not someone who is just born virtuous, but someone who's adopted it and is really just has gone cold turkey with it, and is just so committed to the whole thing. And so yeah, it's something that, like, when you see that happen, when you see that side of him come out, you kind of have to remind yourself, oh yeah, this is actually a major improvement for him. And that's kind of his default setting is terrifying. Haley, thoughts?
Yes. All I have to say is that I really, really want this teapot.
Right?
Yeah. I want this teapot and this t-shirt.
Yes, yes.
And this TNA, baby.
Okay.
Cut that one out, Haley.
Yeah, the page with the first page here with the teapot and the crazy composition, I could just look at it for a long, long time. This page, it's just very visually pleasing to me, and she just looks so pretty, and I just love it.
Okay.
She almost has like anime eyes.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
They're sparkling.
Yeah.
You two are gross. She's a bat lady. Come on.
I really like how likable they make Ginny.
Yeah. I will challenge you on, how there is a different element of when when Marco almost kisses her as to as opposed to what Alana does with the drugs, because the root of it is, Alana is there's something missing, in her
That's
life
true.
at the moment, and he's also missing something, and these are both things that the other feels inadequate about, and it's hard to compare. But I do think I'd feel a little more betrayed if you kissed another woman.
But he didn't, though. That's the thing. That's what I'm saying, is that that's what I think is so interesting and such a challenge to the reader is that this does feel like more of a betrayal, I think. But without him actually doing anything, just getting very close to it, than Alana diving headfirst into it, because we know, like, if Marco, like, I feel like if it started out with Marco just, and I feel like always this just sounds like I'm anti-drugs, but it's largely the thing that Marco brought up last issue, where she was doing hard drugs and not telling her significant other about it, and then taking care of their baby while high and stuff. But it's like, but because she is such a more morally lax person than he is, we judge him at a harsher standard, and which I think makes perfect sense, but is also weirdly hypocritical, and just depends on how you see morality. That's the challenge. I'm not saying I know the definitive answer. I don't think there is one, but I think that is what's philosophically interesting about this whole situation, is that we have him almost doing a thing and her full-blown diving into a thing, and yet they are so equally compelling and upsetting.
Well, and I think it also like really depends on what I think, and I think this is intentionally left ambiguous, but like what is fade away in the universe? Because it's like it's clearly like, I mean, it seems to be like some kind of like psychedelic or something like that. And I feel like if you found out your partner was taking a lot of acid, the reaction to that would be less severe than if you found out that they were taking a bunch of meth, right?
Yeah, for sure. But I think, and that's why I said this. The thing that really registers with me is it really was just brought up with one line, but I think it's the most resonant, is the whole her taking care of Hazel like that, and like, you know, like what if she gets hurt as a result of that or whatever? Like, what if she's just too high? Yeah. It's a whole...
I also think that the other side of the other thing from Marco's side of the argument is, I think part of it is also about the deception, right?
Yeah,
like
sure.
like I think it's one thing to take drugs, but it's another thing to take drugs and pretend that you're not taking drugs.
Yep.
Because that's kind of that's a pattern of lying to your partner, right?
Yeah. That's withholding. I wanted to say evidence, but that's just that's
Your Honor.
So yeah, legally, we gotta put her in jail now. That's the only way I look at marital problems, is from a legal standpoint. Hey,
alrighty.
Is there anything else? Those were the two big philosophical problems that I had with this issue, or questions.
The couch,
the couch, and the teapot. That was it. So we covered them.
He's gonna be talking about that couch for years.
Well, you know what? If you fucking bring it up, because I don't know, dude, we live in such dark time. This is the. Nope, never mind. Go ahead.
No, say it. You can cut it. You can cut it in the editing.
This is the Trump of couches, is what I'm saying.
Oh my god.
Goodbye, another part of our audience. Let's go to the next part.
I legitimately hope that we don't have any of that contingent in our audience.
No, you know what? Yeah, I'm not making fucking money off of this. I don't need, as long as there's 5 of them left, I'm happy.
I think if we had that contingent, they would have left a long time ago.
No, we've thrown some shit their way. All right.
Should we? I guess there's technically 2 scenes left, but this is the big one.
Yes. Is it back to?
It's Haley's turn.
Oh, we gave her the big ones.
Oh wow!
Just take your time with it. Take your time. Just slow and steady.
Just mosey on through.
Slow and steady. Okay.
Conk.
Oh,
okay, there we go.
You should like read sleep tapes.
This is our new ASMR episode of Saga. Nope, I'm cutting that out. Don't even do it. I'm cutting out any lip smacking.
But that's what they want. That's what the people want.
I'm cutting all of this out. I refuse to put lip smacking in this podcast.
Okay.
No, I'm always cutting it out for you. This is nothing new. All right, go ahead.
Hazel is inconsolable.
Mm-hmm.
Clara is trying to figure out what the heck Hazel is talking about when she's screaming "Ponk conk." Alana comes in. She says, "Sorry, I was trying to salvage the getup your son ruined. This is probably coming out of my salary now." Hazel is just "Ponk conk, ponk conk, ponk conk." She really wants that doll. And Alana says, "Baby girl, I'm so sorry. I don't know what that means." And Isabel says, "I think it's something she plays with her dad." And Alana looks down at her outfit very, very sadly. Buries her face in it.
I'm going to go on really quick. I'm just going to say we don't need a panel by panel with how long this scene is. Just
how dare you?
Rough and tumble. We're at an hour 13. I don't need this editing. Go ahead.
And Alana is finally breaking down and, figuring out that she doesn't care about any of this stuff anymore. She just wants to be with her family. Yeah. And now we have blinking fungus. It looks like there's an intruder.
Uh-oh.
My doctor diagnosed me with blinking fungus.
I was going to say, they make a cream for that.
All right, Hazel says hi, and we have a page turn, and look who's here. Dingo, with his gun, not pointed at Hazel, but to the ground. And he's looking down at her with a little like cute bear on his face. And everybody else is freaking out. Isabel jumps to action. She becomes a giant beast.
What is
Like a
that?
mole rat?
Yeah.
Beast is a good. I was curious to see how you went, and beast is a good description of that.
Yeah, that's all I got. 4 eyes, 8 teeth.
What did you just call me?
I'm the one with glasses. What are you talking about?
Go ahead.
Get away from her. But Dango is not phased. He knows what she's doing there, and how of a threat she is not.
Mm-hmm.
He grabs Hazel. Everyone's saying, "Hey, give her back, or else you don't know what is gonna happen to you." But Dango doesn't seem to want to harm her. And Dango introduces himself, and he asks where the father is. Clara lies and says Marco is no longer in the picture. And Dango starts to, explain calmly what he's all about. But Alana comes in and says, blast off. And here, we're going to blast off.
Okay. And take your fade away right now.
All right, the ship blasts off, and everybody is thrown. Alana flies up and grabs Hazel. Dango is thrown against the wall and stunned. Well, that was a very silly thing, too. Clara comes in with her cane, smashed right in the face. Alana is trying to get Hazel away out of here, and Clara very badassly bites off Dango's finger.
Ooh.
With that dark blue, delicious blood.
Gross.
It tastes like blue slushy.
Oh.
Thinking battery acid, personally. I think we just found a question of the week. Go ahead.
All right. Clara is unfortunately pistol whipped by Dango, and he has her in a chokehold. Dango has the gun to Clara's head. He wants them to steer the spaceship to the coordinates that he's going to give them. Clara doesn't want Alana to listen to him, and Alana doesn't really know what to do. She's holding Hazel, and Hazel says, "Ponk conk." And the voiceover is, "This was the story of how my parents split up."
Oh, man.
Ooh, what a scene.
Oh, so, Haley, what are your initial thoughts?
Oh, man. Well, I mean, the reveal of Hazel saying "hi" very cutely, and the next page is the despicable Dango, is just wonderful, and I love that reveal. I audibly gasped when reading it, and there's just this struggle is so real and so kind of chaotic, and very effective.
Yeah, can I point out that Clara doesn't bite his finger off. She rips his finger off. Like, it's not at where her teeth are. It's at, like, the first knuckle.
Oh, you're right.
That it's getting, like, she just rips it off. It is rough. She's a warrior.
Ooh.
We get more of, here's a spoiler for the end of the podcast. But it should have been 18 minutes ago, so it gives a fuck. But my favorite moment of this issue is all of the women jumping into action here.
Yeah.
'Cause
Hell yeah.
every one of them just like Isabel, even though Isabel established that when they were up against Prince Robot before, that her powers don't work against the robots, which is kind of weird, I guess. Like, well, you know what? No,
I buy it. I buy it.
because there's the whole thing with like the horrors.
Seems like mental thing, right?
Yeah. So that, and also like, yeah, if you're up against whatever is the most terrifying thing to you, like I buy that affecting you, unless you have some kind of biometric scanner or whatever it is that robots have. But yeah, I love that. Yeah, Isabel just jumps into this. It's a very cool downward motion of her slamming onto the ground and becoming a beast, as we've established. Yeah. Except everyone...
her mid transition, her animorphs cover midway through.
Oh yeah,
it's so creepy.
Exactly.
Yep. And then we've established before, same thing that saved them when they ran into the Will and the Will launched a rocket at them, or Gwendolyn did, with Alana just jumping into like soldier mode, badass soldier mode, telling the ship to blast off. Like, she's very good under stress in these situations, and she always has that very non-scared, like very determined, very confident face. The most confident we see her is when she's like handling a terrifying situation, and then Clara
she seems most comfortable in battle.
Yeah, for sure. Except the only woman that didn't jump into action was Friendo here, which, you know, I'm gonna go ahead and start a new theory here, that Friendo was the original radical pacifist and taught heist.
Okay.
Oh dear.
So we figured that out.
It's really cool what happens to the backdrop as like things get more intense. The background kind of becomes abstract.
Yeah, it's like all smeared, and I guess like, and it's one of those things where, because we've talked about this before, how it makes sense, like she does abstract things that also make sense in the environment. Like, it becomes more abstract, but also they're leaving the stratosphere too. And like, that could be, you know, the window and the flames and stuff, and like all the weird, like I like how the blue sort of fades away gradually from the fungi. And
it sets up so well for kind of the anime shot of the biting the finger off just on the like red and orange backdrop.
Yeah. And then also I love that the whatever is going on behind Dango when he hits Clara back and says enough. And it's like it seems like the light of, I don't even know what is showing that striking motion. It's very cool. Yeah, I think that might just straight up be abstract there.
I also think this is, and it's interesting to have Haley on here for this, because I think this is some of the like most dramatic, diverse lettering in one scene that we've got in the entire issue. Between the like room of the rocket taking off and like Clara's raw and the crying baby and all of the oofs and ahs and us.
Keep going.
Oof. Le oof.
Which I like how much that adds to the impact of the ship taking off. Because otherwise, like, without that could just be like, you might think it's zero gravity or something.
But the like, I like Dango's scream. His shouting. You kind of see the robotic font on display a bit more.
Yeah, especially compared to Clara's Ra.
Yeah.
Any thoughts on the lettering here other than it's cool, Haley? Do you have any insights, or just it works?
Yeah, I mean, I was trying to study, you know, because there are parts in here where you know, people are shouting and they're connected to like an actual balloon with a tail to the person, and then there's other kind of more SFX style, but I think maybe it's just kind of they're going back and forth on it. At least the of Dango is, you know, in a bubble because, you know, there's more people in the scene. But yeah, I mean it all just dig-a-dang works.
Yeah.
It's also cool that they have the sound effects for the ship taking off is the only one without sort of that white stroke around it, implying that is not coming from a mouth.
I love the raw. I love Clara's raw. Like, it's kind of like scribbly a little bit, and it gives this like intense kind of primal feeling to it.
Yeah, exactly. I love that. And also like the room of the ship powering up. That's another. I like the kind of pale blue that the decision made to make that kind of the pale blue, because, you know, thinking about color, like if that was like a red, then it would seem more like urgent, you know, kind of. But it's more of like a low kind of background humming.
Yeah, that's a really
That's really cool.
that's something that would work really well on film, where it would just be like this, where like Alana says blast off, and we're trying, like both the audience and Dango are trying to understand what's about to happen with the slow room, and then it just blasting off.
Yeah.
After that would be a very cool sequence to see play out.
Oh yeah.
I think another really interesting thing here too is in the middle of the fight, like Dango is still talking to the baby, right?
Yeah.
Like the baby cries and Dango says, "Yes, that was a very silly thing to."
Yeah,
like
he's like agreeing with the baby.
Yeah. Well, and the baby, he's trying to like calm the baby. Like I think in the first scene too, it's a baby's cry that inspires him to. Like the baby cries and he looks at the baby and says, "I suppose you're right. No harm having a look." So I think Dango is just completely fucking unhinged.
Oh yeah.
Good word for it, Noah. And then also, yeah, I think the biggest reveal of this is this was the story of how my parents split up, which turns out it wasn't what we thought. I like how it really seemed like they were just putting all their cards on the table with that reveal in the first issue of this arc of this is the story of how my parents split up, and then it's them physically splitting up without going the full like divorce or something.
I think it's interesting too because I think we're starting to like this kind of follows a similar pattern to the arc at the lighthouse, where the first half of the arc is kind of a lot of character growth, a lot of people talking, and then a bunch of the main forces come together in the end for a climactic showdown that happens in the second last issue of the arc, right?
Yeah, and I think that we had a little more, like at least a little more eye candy with this one, because we have the open circuit stuff going on in these issues, and we also have the Dango stuff happening, which I think is a lot more action packed and a lot more at least visually engaging than the was it Upshur and Doff that we got last arc? That was last arc. Which was more just sort of fun journalistic thing.
And world building.
Yeah. And so I think this one is a little more evenly paced than the last one, and I don't say that as if it's a bad thing, because I think the pacing is fantastic and intentional in the last arc, but I do think that arc is a bit of a black sheep in terms of the general pacing for Saga. I think that it is usually pretty like something extremely bonkers happens every issue, and they've pulled that off with this one.
All right, should you wanna bring us home, John?
Let's bring us home, Noah. Haley, are you ready for me to bring us home?
I am.
I'm going home, guys.
Okay, Daughtry. Anyone? No?
HTN, I refuse to acknowledge. HTN, this was the story of how my parents split up, but it's not the end of our story, is how it continues. And we see the rocket ship tree taking off into space, the green glow of its green flames, and then we see back on the ground with the little green cinders in the air, Marco says no, and he's holding Ponk Conk. And then who comes up behind Marco? It's 310 to Yuma herself, who he's surprised to see. He says, "You're bleeding." She says, "I'll live, unfortunately. Never knew what a coward I really was." So again, just being a very sympathetic, even although disappointing character in her realism. Marco says, "What happened? Where did my family go?" And then we get off panel, fucking of course. And we get the page turn to
it's so
final
good.
splash.
So good.
It is Prince Robot in all black saying, "I should have known you were behind this." And on his screen is the mugshot of Marco that he used in the interrogation.
Oh
and
my god.
I noticed something that I am ecstatic about with this. Do either of you see anything worth noting about this last splash?
That the portal growing inside of his gun is the same portal we've seen on his television before.
Yep. So with that weird abstract cyclone blue image that shows up whenever he's interrogating someone is his gun powering up that blue glow. So literally his screen is his like gun building up, which adds a whole new dimension of threateningness, which is
especially
so
if you're seeing both of them, like if you're seeing the gun going and you see his face,
or especially if you're seeing the gun building up and you're seeing your own face on his screen.
Yeah,
that is terrifying. But now we finally, this is the first time they have crossed paths, right? Or this is the first time that either of the two people have
this is the first time
face-to-face cross paths.
Prince Robot has actually interacted with the family.
Yes, and of course it's when it's not even them who he's technically after at this point, but I get the feeling he'll take advantage of this regardless.
It's such a stunning visual seeing Marco's face on Prince Robot's body. Like
yeah.
It fits perfectly with his shoulders and everything.
Yeah.
No, this is quite a development, and I love the sort of where the puzzle pieces are landing for this arc, and how the board is being set up for these different conflicts, because now we have they are split up officially.
Yep.
And we have two terrifying characters with our protagonists. And it's not a good situation, regardless. And I want to read the next one. Let's just do the next one really quick, guys. Really, really quick.
Really quick.
Here we go.
Really quick. Okay.
The brand is on the front.
Okay.
Haley, what do you think about this cover? Okay. No, this is fantastic.
Actually, that's a really cool cover.
Yeah. Also, the other thing I want to point out about this scene is that it's a very good.
Couch is wrong.
The couch is wrong. Is that that's such a good way to match these shots of Marco's POV looking into space, and then the sort of downward angle on him looking up, and the consistent thing we have across those two is the sort of green cinders, I guess, particles of the ship taking off, so that you know exactly where he is. And also that's telling you, because you wouldn't necessarily know otherwise, that's telling you that he was right outside when that, like, he was almost there when that happened. He wasn't like outside of Ginny's house or anything. Like, he was there.
Yeah, like, well, he watches it take off, right?
Yeah. Which is heartbreaking, especially with, man, what a Saga thing to do, where it's like, oh, both of them independently realize that they're fucking up and that they love each other and that they want to be together and make this work, and let's split them up and not even show, like, they don't even know that the other one had that same revelation. It's just, it's a big old fuck you in the best way.
It's a kick in the nuts.
Haley, don't you agree this is a kick in the nuts?
Yeah, it's a big kick in the nuts, and I know exactly what that feels
don't
like.
Your nuts feel kicked?
Very, very kicked. And it feels bad?
No, not quite.
Really bad.
Depends contextually.
Depends on which building you're at in Sextillion.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh man.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
This is one of my favorite, just very simple techniques here, where Marco says no, and it's in a smaller font, and there's more negative space in the white space in the balloon, where he's like whispering in this devastated kind of tone.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it really conveys the kind of like him saying it to himself. With like just pure desperation, right?
And it's also what the readers are saying at that exact moment too.
Yeah. And
also I like I like how his bandages are around his neck, making a cool little anime scarf for him there.
Yeah.
Kind of Eraserhead.
It looks like an ascot.
Yeah.
It actually kind of, if you ignore his jacket, it kind of looks like he's trying to do like a Fred from Scooby-Doo cosplay with the ascot and the blonde hair.
Well, that brings me to my new theory, Noah. And So there's an analog for every Scooby-Doo character.
Oh.
I'll flesh this out in future issues.
Obviously, Fard is Shaggy.
Fard is pure Shaggy. I'd say he's more of a Scrappy-Doo.
How dare you? How dare you disgrace the good name of Fard like that?
I love it. All right, do we have any other thoughts on this last scene?
I have one.
I feel like I say this every time, but great issue.
Fucking good issue.
I love that right before our page turned to splash, the fucking of course is in robot font, and
Yeah.
that kind of severe 90-degree angle on that tail is very like telling as to first of all who it is. It's like in TV or movie, like if there's a reveal of someone who says something before it cuts to them, you know who it is because you recognize the voice.
Yeah.
And so it has that kind of effect.
If you're paying close enough attention, then
yeah.
you know exactly what's about to happen.
And then that severe tail turn, that tail makes it, very clear what kind of state he's in emotionally.
Yeah, yeah. I like that if you do notice that is the robot font, then there's even more anxiety going into this page turn.
Yeah, exactly.
Cool shit. I like it. But yeah, I'm still pumped about that whole his blaster charging up is the thing that's been showing up on his screen that seemed so abstract and so cool. It's so cool. I love it.
Great issue.
Great issue.
Favorite moment. I already said mine, the girls jumping into action. What about y'all?
100%. Are you seriously trying to educate me about the costs of war? You realize I'm fucking dead, correct?
That's really
Wonderful. Mine is the hi, and then Dango looking down at Hazel.
Yeah, that's such a again. They've established Hazel so well in this arc, and I'm just crazy about her.
Yeah.
That's also all of that, like that little like 2-panel thing is Fiona Staples' horror work, right? Like
Yeah.
it's so fucking creepy with the hello there and the happy little bear cat thing and the low angle. Like it's very much using the visual vocabulary of horror.
Yep.
Yeah,
I love it.
I just to talk about yours quickly now with the
Yep.
Isabel. I do think that something that keeps this series so fresh is the fact that like there are so many good characters and so many things to love about this comic that every time one of them comes back, it is just like it is so refreshing and such a joy. Like it just feels so good to get a great. We haven't gotten a great Isabel back and forth since she talked to Clara this like 5 issues ago, and it's just like it's so refreshing to sort of spread these out over the series that nothing feels overdone or nothing feels too slow. It's just we get a little bit of everything, and everything is great, and it makes for good pacing. Song. Do we have a song?
I've got a song.
I've got a song.
I've got a
You
song.
want to go first, Haley?
Yeah, sure. I'll go first. My song is.
Wait, hold on. Really? You're
okay?
You're gonna go before the song theme music?
Oh.
Wait. We have a theme. We have a
Wow.
song.
Wait, what?
That
We
was
have
a
a
test.
song.
That was a test, and Haley fucking failed. No, we don't have a song.
Hey.
Oh, you fell for. Oh, you.
I've listened to
I've never
every
listened to-
episode.
I've never listened to this podcast.
You've listened to the extended editions of every episode, Noah, while making them. No, yeah, Haley has listened to, and it's not even out of obligation. She just likes the show. She tells me that she has listened to every episode. Yeah, no, go ahead with your song. No song music.
Yeah, and you're saying I was dragging things on. All right. My song is
Quickly.
Say No to This from the Hamilton soundtrack. Was yours the
Oh, you
same,
mean-
John?
Haley, what am I showing you right now on my fucking notepad?
It is Say No to This from Hamilton.
Motherfucker.
It's okay because I have. Hey. I've got backups. You can have mine.
No, it's mine. No. That's how it works. Is I have to come up with one on the fucking fly because everyone steals mine every goddamn time.
I knew it.
Say No to This. Hamilton when he's trying not to cheat on his wife. Spoiler alert. He fucking cheats on his wife.
Also.
Hold on. Also.
Oh, no, I mean, no, as in, like, I just realized that Say No to This also kind of comes into play with when Alana's looking at the drugs and
oh, there you go.
Debating whether to take them.
Yeah, a lot of people not quite saying no to this.
Yeah.
Say Ponk Conk to This is the new version of that song. Noah, what do you got?
I'm desperately trying to think of, in response to Hamilton, a Hadestown song that'll work. But I'm gonna go with my original. It's a little on the nose, but "Lovers in a Dangerous Time" by Bruce Cockburn.
I like it.
Famously covered by the Bare Naked Ladies.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Because they are lovers and they are in a dangerous time.
Okay, I'm going with "Lovers in a Dangerous Time" by the Bare Naked Ladies for mine. And you know what? No, I don't want to have that. That would be annoying. So I'm going to go with 1 Week by the Bare Naked Ladies, which is how long they're on this planet.
I thought you were going to go with Kiss the Girl by The Little Mermaid.
Oh.
Which, it's sad because I love that song, but the more I hear it, it's just like, fucking kiss her. Just kiss her, dude. You don't need consent. Look at how she's staring at you. Look at all these fish. There's fish here. Kiss her. There's my rant about Kiss the Girl from Little Mermaid.
John is very good at complaining about the lengths of podcasts, but equally good at extending the
I'm
length.
equally
yeah.
good at making them fucking worth listening to. I'm the one that makes them earn their length.
Okay there, couch man.
Most insight the whole episode. Hey, really quick, Haley, go ahead and perform that theme song for us. Wow. I think you missed it. I think you missed a note there, but that was solid. That was solid.
It brought tears to my eyes.
B+. Hey, what's our question of the week? Haley, what question do you have for the week?
I don't have one. I tried so hard. I mean,
what does the robot blood taste like?
I legitimately don't have a question. Noah, did you have a question? Are we going with what does robot blood taste like? You know what? No, we're better than this. We could do something.
I'm gonna go with a nice easy question and say, is there a moral equivalency between, like, is it morally equivalent to lean in and try to kiss somebody but not to kiss, or is it worse to have actually gone along the kiss? Does it matter? Does it matter if you actually do the kiss, or is it more about the intention behind it?
Yeah, because leaning in is not an impeachable offense. I think we can all... Oh boy. Yeah, that's the question of the week. Is it as bad to almost kiss someone as it is to kiss someone?
Also, I'd just love to hear people's thoughts on the like taking drugs versus like secretly taking drugs versus cheating. Just weigh in on that. Give me some essays.
No, this is gonna be the question is
what's worse, almost cheating on somebody or taking a bunch of drugs?
I'm not gonna make people decide on. I'm not gonna introduce any sort of objective morality to this fucking nonsense. But I will say, how did they feel to you? Like, how did they compare to you? Did they feel equivalent? Were you more upset by one than the other? What was your reaction reading this? That is a much more answerable question.
I like that.
That is a very good question.
And then for Noah's sake, because for some reason Noah wants to know if it's okay to almost kiss someone. So go ahead and answer that one too. So I see how it is. All right, go ahead and answer Noah's fucked up question. He's jotting down he's screen capping all the answers to and putting them in a file called Arguments Against Emma's Reaction.
Just being put on blast here.
All right, fucking awesome issue. And also, I'm just gonna go ahead and say that the next issue is my favorite of the arc and my favorite in a long time. It is fucking good, this next issue, so come back for that one. It is a
Yeah,
a wild ride.
you sure won't stick around for this one.
Hey,
You should put that disclaimer at the beginning.
hey, Haley, where
You
can
should be
people
like,
find
hey.
you?
Oh, okay.
No,
I'm
not.
sorry.
Shut up, Noah. Haley, where can people find you?
I am on Twitter at Haley A Rose, HALEYAROSE.
You didn't change it after we got married?
No,
You didn't
because
start a new Twitter?
it would have been tough to change the
It
handle.
would have been so bad. Okay.
So bad. And where else?
What's your website for your work? You have a
Oh.
portfolio site, right?
Yes, I do. It is just Haley Rose-Lyon. See, that one I did.
There you go.
Haley Rose-Lyon .wixsite.com because I don't have a and I'm not paying for a website right
it's
now.
nohornsandwings.com. $18 a month.
If you want to pay for Wix, you can use the coupon code
Horns and Wings.
wix.com/polyphonic.
Horns and
Oh, can I?
Yeah.
Oh, can I?
Yeah, you actually can. I have used Wix as a sponsor before. Cut this out in the edit. I don't want to seem like a shit.
I'm putting this up front now. That's how we're opening the podcast. And Haley, so you're available for lettering, for editing?
Yes,
cetera?
lettering and editing, and I think I bring a unique perspective.
Yeah, I agree. You made my comics good, so thank you.
You're welcome.
Noah, where can people find you?
They know by now.
Okay, good.
I'm gonna give an important shout out though because it's really relevant to this issue. If you go to Wash Polyphonic on Twitter, you will see my beautiful interpretation of this week's cover, but with my picture perfect rendition of my own face on Yuma's face. So that's I'm expending all of my plugs here to go look at that image.
We have gotten two perfect meme formats in these last two issues of that cover, putting someone else's face on that portrait, and putting something else on the King Robot screen is phenomenal. We need to do the King Robot with your face on it.
And the King Robot with the doot skeleton on it.
God no. Fucking cursed image. Hey, if you want to check me out, go to hornsandwings.com because that's my whole life. No, go check out hornsandwings.com. It's rad. And we both put a lot of work into it. All three of us put a lot of work into that site, and thank you all for your support on this. And it wasn't me getting really angry at Squarespace for months. It wasn't months. But yeah, that's go check out and subscribe to Wash Polyphonic on Twitter.
That's Wash Polyphonic?
Wash Polyphonic on Twitter. And thank you to Fiona Staples, Brian K. Vaughan, Phonographics and Image Comics, and of course, we're gonna do what we always do when Haley is a guest, and it's each one of us say one word from Am I Shitting? And I think we all know which word each one gets. So if you want to start that off.
All at the same time?
Just, no, we're going to do it in order, and each person will know which word is theirs to say and in what order. So we're going to start now.
Am?
I.
What?
Oh my God. Bye.
Yeah, that was amazing.